All right, how are you doing? My name is Haley Asus, and yeah, thank you for watching the video. I've been doing some thinking, and I've been thinking a lot about uh, how do we fix America, right? That sounds like a very broad topic, which it is, but I believe strongly in the following hypothesis I'm going to explain to you. Um, that our issue is it's fundamental to who we are, but at the same time, it's one of the things killing us. And with all of that said, because it is so fundamental to who we are, the change that needs to happen is going to have to be very profound. And yeah, what it needs to be, who knows at the moment, but yeah, I'll get into all that a little bit later. Okay, so start off. How do we start to fix America? I think what's important is we need to define what is the actual problem and basically how we got here. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, try to be concise, and I am skipping over mountains of information that you will be obviously able to tell, and I'm going to be paraphrasing a ton. Okay, I know all of my information is based off of years of research. I am not concerned about the exactness of things because I am purposefully being general and broad. But I know what I'm saying is basically correct. So let's jump it off. So back around the 1500s or whatever, what we have is a shifting in understanding, a shifting in the way humans thought about civilization building, right? And what do I mean? Before this time, the powers that be was based off of military might and forceful control over land. Who can ever defend and control the land? They were the ones in charge. Now, during this time, the idea of, wait a minute, if I have the gold, I can just pay people to do things for me, right? So then the idea of economics being more important than military might started to kind of take over in the zeitgeist of Europe. Okay? Now, while all of this is going on, and the idea of more economic power is important, this starts the exploration time, and we Columbus, blah blah blah, boom boom boom. Okay. When this happened, the new land is found. The Spanish, they seemed to catch hold of South America and got all the gold that was already mined because there was a large civilization that was there already. France and England and the other European countries hit North America actually, and the already dug up gold was not there, but the obvious resources of the land was there, timber and a number of other things. And as they begin to see that this land could grow anything, and they find sugarcane and a number of other things, they realize that, oh, we can just grow this in bulk on this land, ship it back to Europe, and then this begins that whole cycle, right? Now, while this is going on, there were a group of people in Europe who, whatever their exact reasons are, they read through the Bible the idea that some people are not actually humans, and since man has divinity over all plants and animals, they obviously have divinity over these guys, so blah blah blah. So this begins the basis of the American slave trade as we know it. Now, from what I've seen and from the research I've come across, I can boil down the biggest difference between slavery, which existed since we enslave each other. That's what we do. The thing about the American slave trade that is the biggest difference is two major things. Thing one is that this is the first time that I've seen that the idea of slavery was not based off of I came and conquered you, now you will do what I say, but it's based off the idea of no, you're not even, you're an animal. You are an animal, and I can do what I want with you, right? With that, the emergence of pre-industrial America and the usefulness of a bunch of labor that's basically free, how much you can build economically, right? These are the two main things that I noticed that was different between the American slave trade and all of the other slaves. I mean, there's other, like the Arabs, they had a pretty horrific time with their slaves too. You know, I'm not saying that America was inherently worse, but it was a distinct difference that the slaves were economic property. They were part of the economic engine of the people, right? Because you have to understand, pre that, owning slaves was expensive. You have to feed them, you have to clothe them, you have to house them. Rich people had slaves, right? It was a sign of wealth and power, or it was a sign of military conquest. America, it was the first time that you can just buy yourself a person and start building, making money, right? So it becomes this resource kind of thing. So this is, from what I can tell, the biggest difference in American slave trade versus the others. It was an economic difference. Now, let's keep it moving. So we have slavery going on. America is making a bunch of money. Technically still part of England. Now what we have is a moment of England saying, okay, you're making a bunch of money, give us some money, give us taxes. Americans said, no, we're not going to give you taxes. Boom, boom, revolution, bam. America is now separated from England, and America is now starting to become an economic engine unlike the world has seen before. But we have to remember this is because of slavery. Because of slavery and all of the free labor, there's the resources are starting to really be generated. Are starting to be generated. Trade is happening. The North is making money from the trade, and the immigrants and all of that kind of stuff has the North making a particular type of money, and then the South, they're making money because they're the ones growing the stuff. They are making the things, the products that the North is selling and trading off of. So there is a symbiotic relationship, but very different. So the South with this, the South with their slaves was making a ton of money for America, at the same time enriching themselves, and the North, their slaves became kind of useless because, like I said, it's expensive to have slaves. It's cheaper just to kick them out and let them figure it out on their own, right? Not that they started to think that black people were human or anything like that, but it's just better, and they seem to be able to take care of themselves. So go ahead and go. I only say it like that because I'm tired of people getting confused like the North was some amazing group of people. They wasn't. They're just as racist as the South. They just had a different need with black people, a different relationship with black people. Anyway, so here we get to the Civil War. The North saw the economic power of the South, and they became concerned that the South could get enough money that they could succeed and become their own country, and then the North will have to figure out ways how to now generate that money. They had all of the money already, but they were not the creators of that money, basically. It was the South growing and providing the products which the North traded, right? So the South was like, we're going to do our thing. The North says no. The North goes, you know what? How about this? You can do whatever. We'll just free the slaves, pay everybody a fair wage, and we're good. Paraphrasing. Now, the issue with this, obviously, for the South, is that you get rid of the free labor, which was the main source of their income, and the South really bought into the idea that black people were not really human. Like, they really, it's deeply rooted. So, with those two combining things, we get the Civil War. In the Civil War, neither side loved black people, but the South were exceptionally positive that they should be owned, right? So this is why the South is a bit more racist than the North, but please don't get it confused. Both sides are racist. Let's keep it moving. After this happens, we get more into pre-industrial America. Things start to go good. Now we start to move into the 1900s. We start to see a major boom because now industry has started to really move into place. We're making cars, we're making things, there's factories. Money's starting to come in. The stock market is a thing now. Boom, boom, boom. Roaring 20s. Great Depression. capitalism, this thing that started to move, was doing really good because labor was really cheap, skill was really low, so you could get away with practically free labor and still make a ton of money. Great Depression happens, things collapse. Whatever the factors are, that's not the point of what I'm bringing in here. But what I'm bringing in here is there appeared to be a mentality shift. And the mentality shift was basically we have to get everyone invested into America and into capitalism. Because the more people who are invested in capitalism, the stronger the engine becomes. Because the capitalism is based off of productivity. It's not products, but productivity. How well can you get things done? Because the products kind of doesn't matter as long as you can make a bunch of them quickly. People will buy, blah blah blah, right? So with that mentality going on, the more people you have in buying into the concept of capitalism, the more people you have to buy the products, and more people who will be invested in working to make said products, right? It becomes a system where it kind of builds itself. So in doing that, they started to really build a middle class, right? So this happens. We see the American Dream, 50s, 60s, and then in the 60s and 70s, it became apparently obvious that there was two different Americas. There was the Americas for non-whites and the Americas for whites. And in that non-white category, you found both homosexuals, gay people, however you want to call them. Such an ass, sorry. And Chinese, Latinos, everybody was non-whites. They had a particular way of living, and then the whites. In the non-white category, black people experienced exceptionally harsh treatment because of what we talked about earlier, dehumanizing, never really felt that they should have been freed in the first place, blah, blah. All this mentality still exists. We get the civil rights era. It shouldn't be happening. It exists, whatever. When that happens, if you can look at the data, that becomes one of the first times that the economic strength of black America starts to actually move closer to white America because the doors actually started to get opened and there was access to professionals that weren't there. There was access to money that just didn't exist before. So now we get to the 80s. In the 80s is where we see our first real group of super rich. And super rich is what I mean is when we start to see people, individual businessmen who were born just as poor as the rest of us, amass enough wealth that they have more money than countries. Not just small countries, like big countries, right? This starts to bubble up in the 80s, 90s, it takes off. Now we're living in the era of, here in America, real talk. If you don't know this, it is literally this simple. A lot of luck involved, but it's this simple. If you can fix a problem, right? If you can figure out a product or service that fixes a problem, and you can design that product or service so that it is easy to deal with, you show it to people, there's a very good chance that you can easily make six figures, maybe even seven figures, right? Because currently, it is a consumer market. This is the economic engine. People buy, you make the money, right? It's very easy. The difficult part is the idea, right? But I don't want to digress. Super rich, 80s now. What we see here is that all of the economic activity that's going on is now falling into fewer and fewer hands. The people who are making all of the money, they're making more of it, and they're making more of it faster because our economy has been designed now, recently, since around the 80s, to benefit financial transactions, right? Before you used to be we would benefit trade and those types of things, but now simple financial transactions. If you are a finance person, you will probably make gobbles and gobbles of money. But that's not really a thing, right? I'm not going to get into my issues with finance, but for the most part, most financial people, yeah, it's as long as you're not afraid of numbers. If you're not afraid of numbers, you can get into finance, make a ton of money, and you whatever. All right, I'm not gonna go anymore. point is, right now, the financial side of the professional life is the main contributing factor in a lot of things, right? Okay, whatever. So let me sum this up. All of that to bring us now to try to illustrate the idea um, about how we got here. And my point is, each step of the way, the divide, the war, the the problems of the time were pushed by capitalism. It was the need for resources, the need for cheap labor, these things. The Since capitalism works under the basic idea that for any business, profit is the main motivating factor, the main goal. That's what you need to do. You need to make profit so you can become bigger, so you can make more profits. With that being the way free marketed capitalists think, right? It's That's a cancer, right? Cancer works like that. Cancer is a normal cell that says, "Hey, I'm just going to keep reproducing myself." It doesn't fall in line with the necessities of the body. It just keeps reproducing, and then eventually it affects other cells, which infects other cells, and now you have a tumor, right? Free market capitalism, the sheer thought of it is a cancer. It is cancerous. It wants to grow out of control until it consumes everything. Literally a cancer. Okay, I'm jumping off of that soapbox. But this is what I'm trying to explain. It started out as an engine to move a country forward, but it was literally built off of the backs of people. And the whole way time, the people who were suffering from capitalism changed, but people still suffered from capitalism. Before I go any further, let me say this. As it stands today, capitalism is one of the best ways we know how to deal with resources and the exchange of resources. Okay, so I'm not shitting on capitalism like it's the evil. The way it is manifested is evil. Capitalism itself is not evil. It is the free market manifestation of it is a cancer. Capitalism, buying and selling, trading of products and services, that is not evil. Free market. Okay, so I wanted to make that clear. So, with all that said, what are some of the things that make all of this thing possible? Okay, so I was doing a lot of thinking about this, and you have to understand, there's only, if you hear it a lot, the carrot and the stick. The carrot is the reward, stick is the punishment. Um, Humans, we have found, on an individual level, are much more carrot orientated. Most people will do things because of a reward, an illusioned good response at the other side. Large groups of people, it appears, are better maneuvered through fear, right? So you have a stick for a large group, but you give carrots to individuals, right? This is the basic way we've been doing civilization, I guess. I don't know how to say it, right? And so capitalism, because the carrots, the reward is money, is the ability to own capital, the ability to move more resources, right? That's the carrot. Everyone must share from the carrot. So the more carrots you have, the easier it is to get carrots. Now, once you have a bunch of carrots, you can use those carrots to keep the stick away, right? Our criminal justice system can be pushed away mostly with money. Mostly with money, you can push away most criminal issues. Facts. Now, okay. Why is that? Because people are corrupt. And the way the justice system works, it allows itself to be corrupted. Right? It's just that simple. Right? Because of all of the laws with all of the crimes and all of the people arrested, no one has time to deal with all that because there's so many people being arrested for nonsense. So there's so many people in the system, so the system can't handle all of that. So the system is basically designed to process people as fast as possible. If you have money, you clog up the system kicks you right out, gets you out as fast as possible. If you don't have money, the system chews you up because there is profits to be earned from you on the other side. Okay? So, why does all that work? Right? Why are so many people falsely arrested and all of that kind of stuff? Right? Doing a lot of thinking about this and looking at just the number of ways countries justify themselves, I came across something called the authority of violence, right? And that's something I came across. I found the idea was basically started somewhere in the 1500s, and it's the idea that citizens, they basically belong to the country, to the nation, so it is only the state that is allowed to distribute corporal punishment, right? Only the state is allowed to injure the citizen. So with that means citizens can't injure citizens, and the state can do whatever it wants to you, but you cannot injure the state. Okay? And the state obviously boils down to cops, guardsmen, whoever was the patrolling force at the time. So currently, this is the reason why it's automatic. You can't hit a cop. You can't hit the FBI. You can't. Anyone is falsely arresting you, you got to get arrested. You got to go on and get arrested, or else there's a whole set of laws and problems that they try to chop your head off because you attack the state. It's not that you attack that person, it's because you attack the state. Okay, authority of violence is what gives this the thing. Okay, so let's stop and think about this. We are now in a place where we understand human behavior on a real level. When this was up and running, there was a lot about people that was just simply not known. There was things about the universe that was not known. But now, difference. There's a lot, we know so much more about people and what motivates us. The need for anyone to injure anyone should not be a thing. It should be illegal for one human to injure another human, right? And it should be legal for any human to defend themselves for being unjustly attacked by another human. Facts. Period. We understand this. We understand even with that little twist, nothing is going to change. The only thing that's going to change is you remove the power from the law enforcement officers to act recklessly, right? Now, of course, it will still be illegal to attack an officer without just cause, right? But at the same time, if people are being arrested illegally, they can defend themselves, right? This is a simple change where only thing it actually affects are the people who it needs to affect, right? I'm a happy person. I'm nonviolent. All the nonsense times I've been arrested, which is whatever, I talk them to death. I know stuff. Jibber jibber jabber jabber, right? There's no need to be violent with me, right? Because I have no need for that in my life, so I don't present that. Blah blah blah. I know people who don't see life like I do, who, for whatever reason, get treated unfairly fairly often. Get stopped, pulled over, talked to, for no other reason that you look like somebody, right? Okay, that needs to stop. How does that stop? Any cop who feels they need to do that, there's something wrong in them anyway, and they're looking for something. Now, when you remove the protection of them, meaning that, why did you stop that person? Oh, because they look like a suspect? That if that's all you had, there's no reason to stop them. When you remove those kind of protections, it changes the way they think. They start to go, okay, look, do I want this right now? Right? Is that the guy? Is it worth that? Then, the real, if they're actually scared for their lives, then it starts to become that question. Is it worth all of that trouble? Right? I'm just saying. If there is no consequences, if there are no consequences, then do whatever they want. And that's across the board, and that's all of them. That's all of them. You know what I mean? FBI, they got issues too. DEA, all of them. All of them. They, oh, it's the authority of violence, right? This is the thing, and that is an idea that might have been useful at some point in time, but here we are. What is this? The year 2000, over half a millennia later. I think we can get rid of it. I'm just saying. All right. So another big issue that I want to go over real quick is the idea. Okay, so a bunch of quotes here. Just quote, 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 quote. I want to talk about this because I want to talk about the way I watch people have this idea in their mind. And I think this is why we can't move forward on this. And I want to try to explain it in a way that is hopefully more enlightening. Okay? So it's the idea of white privilege, right? So white privilege. Now, I think very literally. Please understand that. White privilege, to me, sounds like, and it appears that a lot of people, mostly white people, hear it as there is a benefit to being white. There is no benefit. Well, I'll get to that. There is no actual benefit to being white. Everything is equally as difficult for a white person of equal blah 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 across the board than it is for any other person blah 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 across the board. All things equivalent, short of the identity group the person's in. Okay. Here is the issue. Okay. The only benefit of being white is the benefit of the doubt. Right? Check it out now. The benefit of the doubt. Why is that different? The reason white people get the benefit of the doubt is because there is an idea floating around in the zeitgeist that Western, European, white people, their way of doing things is better. A white person has probably had a better education. They're probably more knowledgeable of a particular thing, so they'll get the benefit of the doubt on what they say. And if they happen to have twigs and berries, they're probably one of the smarter people around. See, that's not white privilege. That's white supremacy, right? That is the idea that just because a person is white, European, pale skin, that they are better culturally, that their whatever is better. That is the problem. So now why is this the problem? This is the problem because we get caught up in the place where cultural appropriation, let me clarify what I mean by that too, whenever one group takes something from another group and claims it as their own, like this is my thing now, that's cultural appropriation according to me. Cultural appropriation is done by white people because they think their version is better, right? They think their version is better. That's the problem, right? Everyone, not just white people, all people, not talking about just black people, Asians, Latinos, everybody involved, all seem to have this thing that the Western white version is better. Let's move that direction. Okay? Whatever. I don't know, care why that became a thing. I assume it became a thing because of the transitioning through the industrial age. It was Western and white culture was the driving force for the expansion of democracy and all of that stuff. So maybe they get seen as whatever. But when you come down to it and you look at any Western culture, not European ones. Let me rephrase that. European guys, they still maintain things that are whatever their nation is. But when I say Western, I'm talking about America, white America culture. Everything about the culture is a mix of a number of other cultures. It's always it is a mix of things, and this is the thing that tickles me. It's like if you want to say what makes Western, not white, what makes Western culture the greatest, it is because Western culture is literally the mix of all the cultures. It is it is the true melting pot soup that we were talked about, right? That is Western culture. That's what it should be. That's the goal. White culture uh, wants to pretend that Western culture is theirs. So in doing that, all of the stuff is theirs. Thus, white people are best, right? This is white supremacy, and this is the hugest issue. It is the core of the thinking that causes all of the other things. They like white people, America, Western society is just taught that white people are the best versions of people. All right, that's at some point we need to get rid of that idea. There are no best versions of people. There are just people, and some people just do more with themselves than other people only because they want to do more. Like there's no the only difference between anyone is what they do, right? I don't want to get too much into that. And the last thing I want to talk about as it pertains to what's currently going on that's causing a lot of the issues is the way I like to think about it: uncontrolled canines. Canines being from little chihuahuas up to bears. Bears are canines, if you didn't know. And I look at all of the law enforcement agencies as a different version of canine. We get to our local cops; they're the dogs. You know, everyone has dogs. They're regular old dogs, or your local cops. You talk about the FBI and such, and all those guys. There are different forms of wolves and coyotes and all that stuff. So those federal law enforcement, you know what I'm saying? Those guys fall into that canine range, and then you have, the bears, which are the military, big scary beasts. Excuse me, that hide in the wilderness, and they only come out when the time comes, and when they come out, they tear people's heads off. Those are the bears, right? So I look at all of those guys as a different form of canine. Okay, using that analogy, the biggest issue we have right now is that the people on the leash, the government of all of the canines, they're just letting them run wild. They're like letting them sick and bite anyone that walks close to them. They're just completely uncontrolled. There's many places across this country where the police are basically. I grew up in New York back in the '80s, and I remember when I was living in Queens, there was like 6 dogs. It was a freaking pack of fucking uh, uh, stray dogs, a pack of strays, just walking around. They like if you got caught when they were around, I feel bad for you. You was running for your life. If they, well, they was, yeah, yeah. Anyway, that was going on for a couple weeks. I feel the same way about most local cops. Most local cops seem to be like a bunch of dogs roving around looking for troubles. And when they come, they're barking and biting, biting and barking, right? Uncontrolled, no leash, and they just got free reign to go on. That needs to stop. We need to gain control over the dogs because we can't have them biting us and all of that stuff. And they are that way because if you ever lived in a hood where there's houses, you probably had a neighbor who was a terrible pit bull neighbor. You know what I mean? Or not even a pit bull. Pick your dog. Doesn't matter. Treated the dog bad. Made the dog hyper aggressive, and then let it loose in the yard. Let it loose in the yard. Let it run around the back. Let it run around the front. Didn't matter. Unless you was a friend in the family, the dog was tearing your head off. Right? Same thing with the cops right now. They're just riled up, terrified, biting everything, and that's because their owners are the same way. They're trying to rile them up. All right. So that is the issue with those guys. All right. I'm rattling on. Let's wrap this up. I don't mean to wrap this up. Let's get the answers, right? Let's jump into the answers. So what are the answers? Okay. Now, from my perspective, with the way our government currently is, and all of the things that are currently wrong with our government, the partisanship, all of that stuff, I'm going to speak about these answers from the perspective of something, some way that someone can actually do something, right? It could be an actual thing where there's repercussion and results that will actually happen to be sussed out. Because right now everyone likes to talk about, because well, currently we know what's going on, but if you make changes, blah blah blah. You got to make the changes and see what happens. Shake it out. Got to have smart people in place to like, oh well, let's fix that, right? So anyway, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some things I've been thinking about and how I think they could happen. How they could actually happen, not the land of the fairy things and blah blah blah. Okay, here we go. The first major thing that I think that needs to happen is okay. I talked about earlier the authority of violence, and in the authority of violence, what's currently still needed of that idea is that there needs to be some way for the state to enact criminal punishment onto citizens, because our current state of citizens, there are a number of us who are abusing innocence. I don't even mean physically alone. I'm talking about scammers and everybody. We're taking advantage of innocent people, and that needs to stop. That's the issue. So, in the authority of violence, what we need to think about is how do we balance that, right? How do we dance that line? And so I think the best place to start with dancing this line is the law has to be written very specifically, but basically allowing people to defend themselves both against from police officers, all forms, Leos, all forms of law enforcement, and also defend themselves against each other, right? We really need to give full ownership of people of their own personal defense. Okay, and why is that? When we remove the protection from cops and just law enforcement in general to unjustly commit violent acts on people, we give people the ability, we don't, not the ability, we give people the right to, we allow people to access their natural right of self-defense. There becomes an understanding all of a sudden. It's like, oh, okay, I just can't do whatever I want to you. Right, you can't do whatever you want to me. What's going on, right? Now, in the constructing of this, it needs to be in there that whatever law enforcement officer, once they identify said crime, then that's when you lose that ability to defend yourself. Like, I am here because you're being charged with theft. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, you get charged with a crime, you can no longer fight. They have a reason to arrest you. Innocent, they're proven guilty. Just go on in, they'll take you in, the process, boom, 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 boom. Okay. The police come and they're like, oh, what are you doing here? None of your fucking business. Blah, 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 blah. Then the cops start, and hey, there was no reason for the cop to talk to that man. That cop was obviously talking to harass him, right? Yeah. Now, of course, in this change, there will be some rough spots. There will be some officers who actually get injured, maybe some that lose their lives, and that would be terrible. But I'm going to contend that if that does happen, like much of the situations we have seen with our own eyes, it is the officer instigating the problem, right? And then sometimes it's other people calling cops on people. So now when a cop gets there, it's on the cop to suss the situation out. Now, if there's no reason to arrest or harass this person other than somebody made a complaint and there is no damages done, like, you know, cops are going to have to learn de-escalation. They're going to have to learn some basic investigation techniques. You know what I mean? They're going to have to learn actually about being police and, you know, protecting and serving and those kind of things, right? Because they don't get the free kill at will stamp anymore. That's done, right? So because that needs to be a law written out a very specific way, what can be done also is that it can be written up as an executive order. Now, as an executive order, if you don't know, you should look it up. They write those things like water. Terrible. None of them hold any weight. They just do them. That's why executive order is so beautiful. You write up as an executive order, basically eliminating the power of police to attack people without cause, right? You eliminate that You now allow cops to be prosecuted for, assault, because that's what it would be, right? Harassment, stalking, right? This is what it is if there's no cause there. But now if there's a cause and you got paperwork, boom, 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 hey, be a cop, do your thing. Okay, you executive order it out, boom, 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 right? And along with that, you'll tie federal funding to police departments to reporting of cops that violate people's rights, right? So every person might not fight, right? You say you can, but most people won't. They'd be terrified. The cop has a gun. They'd be scared the cop's going to shoot them, so they're not. Boom, boom. 0, maybe 1 or 0, I don't know, complaints, right? If you have officers that have complaints and they are not fired, you lose federal funding, right? Any place that hires people who would be on this database for cops who got fired from violating people's rights, you lose your money, right? Tie it to money, and you'll see cops act right. They still have all of the things, blah, 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 but that little change right there, executive order, they would change automatically. And those who don't want to change, they'll leave, and that's good. And they'll be getting arrested by the people who then become cops, right? Because the whole attitude changes. The whole attitude changes. Boom, automatically. Not automatically. There's going to be a lot of fighting, and cops are going to be mad, and with the police unions and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Make that change. You're not doing anything other than forcing them to act like people. All right, second thing I want to talk about. So, the culture of America, for better or for worse, currently is done through media, right? People watch things, they observe and absorb things from television and such, and it becomes out of them in culture, right? One of the things we have to do is embrace America for what it is, right? What do I mean by that? We need to see people who America holds as important, doing and loving things that is America but not them, right? Because it doesn't matter who you are in America. There are things that make up America that are not you at all, and you've never seen, but you should go check it out, right? Because that's America. We are a melting pot. We share all of this stuff together, and we need to appreciate all of this stuff together. You understand what I'm saying? Like I used to live in West Virginia. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh my God, West Virginia is so beautiful. Mad poor, really beautiful. There's probably a bunch of reasons why you haven't gone through West Virginia. I used to live there. Trust me, I know. But that's what we need to change. We need to be like, no, I've been to West Virginia. I've seen the Blue Mounds of what is that? Kentucky? I am so bad with the Midwest. Anyway, I've seen Mammoth Caves. I've seen the caves. I've seen northern Wisconsin. I've seen blah, blah, like when you start to go and actually see the things in our country, you really begin to appreciate the multiculturalness of our country, right? And then doing that, there becomes an appreciation of each other. And that's what it is. Like, understand, being up here in the Midwest, where it's funny the people that they don't like. You know what I'm saying? You always think, well, people don't like blah, blah, blah. Then you get to each individual area, and in that individual area, those people don't like another group of people that you didn't even know was a group. Like, what? You cannot like those people? Wow, I didn't see that coming. So the idea to fix this is to, like, man, travel around, see each other, experience. Well, obviously not now. Wear your mask, 6 feet, blah, blah, blah. When that part's done, travel around, see each other, hang out, experience other sides of America that you don't normally see, because that is the beginning of understanding, and the beginning of understanding is the end of all of the isms. It doesn't matter what ism it is, right? You begin to understand whatever that group is. You begin to see where they come from. Then you start to lose whatever bias that you might have had for them. All right? Now, last but not least, I think this is incredibly important. And circle back, carrot and stick, right? Carrot and stick seems to be the prime motivators for much of capitalism, right? Carrot and stick. Okay. Because the major corporations, the ones on top, they have been receiving all of the carrots and none of the stick. That's the way it's been going. It's time to give them the stick and share the carrots with the other people. And what do I mean by this? So I was looking at the tax revenue last year, just real general numbers. America basically brought in 1.2 trillion, I think, in taxes, and there was approximately $1.1 trillion lost through corporate loopholes in particular. Now, it didn't get into the exactness of it, but as I was reading it, I understood it to be all of the various loopholes that corporations can use to not pay taxes. Things like losing money on real estate that is unused, blah blah. Like, there's all kinds of nonsense, but it's basically equal to the amount of money we don't take in because of shenanigans that corporations do. Excuse me. Just close those. Double the amount of money. Bingo, bango, bongo. All right? Another thing. When we complain about our privacy, Facebook, privacy, YouTube, Google, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I hear you. Okay? Trust me. In the newness of the internet, I am relatively new. Right? I did not get a cell phone until my 30s. All right? I'm not that old. Like, I got my first cell phone 12, 13 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I didn't start to actively be online until I started going to school back in 2012. Yeah. All of that stuff before, I don't know what was that. I was actually not even in country. Yeah, dude. I don't know none of this stuff. I was not participating, not a part of it. Okay, we get here. I understand privacy is important, right? Not being a part of the system, I also learned something huge, that the things about me that are private, I don't put online ever. I might allude to a thing or two once in a while just because I'm bored, but no. All their truly private stuff, no, you don't ever see. You don't never see that stuff. Why? Because it's none of your business. It's actually private. Because it's actually private, I actually keep it to myself. You see what I'm saying? So, with that said, I mean, I'm talking about even the stuff I search online, dude. Like, I don't care about that stuff. You can see that I have 20 copies of whatever, the 50 Shades of Grey. Who gives a shit? I bought 20 copies because why not? Okay, I didn't. Pulling shit out of my butt. Point is, I don't care about those things because that does not tell you who I am. I tell you things I like, things I might do, blah 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 blah. Okay, cool. Every once in a while, the giant algorithm machine does spit out something. I go, what? I looked at that for 2 seconds on my phone 4 weeks ago. Boy, you're crazy. But I don't care, right? Because it's already out there. There's nothing I can do about it. And the algorithm machines are fairly smart, so they can probably figure out a lot of things because I'm not choosing to actively decide to hide myself from the algorithm. Why? It doesn't matter, right? I mean, it does matter, but neither here nor there at the moment. The thing is, all of this data is being taken automatically. You can do nothing about it. It's happening. It's already been happening, and no one understood how valuable it was. Now, it is currently the new gold. The new gold is your data. Your data is the gold. Understand that. Your data is the gold. Nothing else. They don't care about nothing else. The government is not searching you. They don't care. People who make money off of that information cares. And they are all in your stuff. Okay. It's too late. The horses have left the barn. It is too late now. So what do? We tax them. That's simple. If you sell any form personal data of your clients or contacts, there needs to be a tax on that. Yes. So places like Google, like Facebook, like YouTube, like Twitter, all those, they would see a dip in their revenue because of the sheer amounts of personal data they sell. Because they sell it. Now, if you are a firm that buys said data and then you sell it to your clients to get them the best blah, guess you got the tax too. If you are selling data, you got the tax. The person selling the data pays the tax, not the person buying said data. Now, obviously, with that, there needs to be controls on what data can and can't be sold, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there are some that need to be refined to current and looking forward instead of constantly looking back, but whatever. But yeah, so how do you get that tax in, right? There's no new taxes. How do you close those loopholes? Guess what? In case you didn't know, the power to tax is solely the president's. Solely. What that means is the president can write new tax code and it takes effect. Now, the president has zero say over how the money is spent. President gives suggestions. I would like to see. It is on Congress to say how the money is spent, but the amount, how the money gets in there, is solely on the president's, right? This is why corporations plan on never paying taxes, because every single president is going to make sure they keep their loopholes, or else how are you going to get back into office? How are you going that? Okay. The power to tax belongs to the president. 2 tax things that can be done that will dramatically change the revenue: closing corporate loopholes and adding a privacy tax on any company that sells privacy data of their customers or their contacts. Now, how much tax is, I don't know. I'm not a math guy like that, but needs to be a tax there. All I know is this. This is very similar to the tax I heard Andrew Yang talking about, and I have to go back and look again. But the numbers he was talking about bringing in, let me tell you, it would pay for a lot of things, right? He called it the freedom dividend, which, that's cute. Here's the thing. Getting the money in is one thing. We as a people must decide on how it is spent. Okay? The ability to bring in money, that's on the president, and it can happen. The way to spend the money is on Congress, thus on the people. People have to say how they want their money spent. And let me just explain this to you in case you don't know. Do a little research and you will find a number of studies that shows in developing countries the best way to assist said country into getting out of their situation is simply providing resources and providing access. Resources and access, people will do the rest. No one wants to be poor. No one wants to struggle. Resources and access tends to be the thing that they're missing. So, for that to happen, that's on Congress. They have to rethink the way we choose to spend our money. You know, more cops doesn't work. More military doesn't work. The ways we have been doing things obviously doesn't work. People, we are not paying for our roads. We are not paying for our infrastructure. There is lead in the water. There are places destroyed by hurricanes that can never be rebuilt. The sheer thought of hurricane coming through places have people terrified because they realize that will be the end of them. These are things that can be fixed by simply changing what we find important, thus changing the way we spend our taxes. More tax money can be brought in fairly simply. Pre-COVID, on average, $19 trillion a day in transactions happen in America. There's money flowing. The number's probably down, but I would be hard pressed to see that the number's under $10 trillion a day in transactions happen in America. Okay? And what I mean by that is the money is flowing. The money exists, and the way governments get that money is through taxes. Taxing intelligently brings in money and allows the government to provide services to the people, which makes them happy to pay taxes. We all hate our government in America because our government are full of people who tried the least. They say, "How much can I get away with without getting fired?" That is the stigma, the stain of the American government. Maybe all governments, but I know definitely here in America, they're the people who try the least. And the thing we have to remember is that they're us, right? We work in the government. It's not some other magical people. It is us. So we are doing it to ourselves. We get leadership in that wants change and wants a government that operates efficiently, where, yeah, being one of the shiny monkeys is not that big a deal because you have things you're doing. Shiny monkeys referring to politicians. Or, no, not or. I lost my train of thought. Yes, change the way we spend money. Got to get people in the government who wants to do that. And when that happens, and we begin to see like what is actually capable in the American economy, we begin to see what can we actually get accomplished. All right, I've been rambling. All right, so let's sum it up. Sum it up real quick. Issue we got here through unchecked capitalism, which caused racial issues because the first true economic engine of America was through slavery, and slavery existed because of racial biases that were taught to people. In that, after slavery, tools of progress, what caused the capitalism engine to go was labor, low wages labor, and that's the battle we've been fighting. Excuse me, ever since the end of slavery is the trying to get the money out of the hands of the corporations and into people's hands. All right, and then lastly, not least, the last hugest contributing factor what pushed everything over the edge is the new royal class that happened in the 80s, the super wealthy. When that happened, it just increased the distance between the top and the bottom, and now we are feeling the pressure because there's more on the bottom and the distance is getting further away, and there's actual issues that are born from that needs to be dealt with. Okay. The nuggets from these problems: authority of violence. You don't need that anymore. That's not a thing. People don't need to be beat to be kept in control. We know people will do the right thing. White supremacy, the idea that because it is white, it is right, that has to end. We need to embrace and enjoy all cultures. And there's nothing wrong if you are white and you're enjoying another culture. That's okay. Do not act like your way is better. That's not okay. Do not act like you invented it. That's not okay. You can just enjoy it like everyone else just enjoys stuff. Okay? And lastly, we got to get in control over the canines. We got the dogs need to be put on a leash, man. All the various law enforcement organizations, they run rampant, out of control, and they need to be wrangled in. Okay? Fixes. First thing I believe in strongly is a simple executive order that allows people to defend themselves and against law enforcement officers, and also protects law enforcement officers by reinstituting that authority of violence at the moment of arrest, right? You know, when you have a real thing. And also, in the lines of that executive order, adding on, all federal monies will be tied to a database in which officers that have complaints, don't know the exact number right now, I do want to be fair, of violating people's rights, they get removed, automatically fired, or you lose your money. And anyone that hires them loses their money. Boom, boom, boom. Database. Yes, all in a nice executive order written out in beautiful legalese. The next thing I just think would be really important is just that people in charge would make it a point to travel around America and do American things and not wear suits because no one likes suits. Suits are uncomfortable. No one's comfortable in a suit. As they say, they are, they're lying to you. Put some jeans on. You can wear your shoes, but wear some jeans. Americans, we wear jeans. We're the jean wearing country. Wear some damn jeans. Anyway, yeah, embrace what America is. You know, we need to see our politicians hanging out, doing things across the country from places they're not, down in the South, up in the Northeast, hanging out in the Dakotas, all of that stuff. Uniting America by hanging out with Americans. You know what I mean? Oh man, the first politician to smoke some weed on TV, boom, America's new hero. Let me tell you. And lastly, but not least, we need to remember that a lot of the issues we have stem around not having enough money and not having the a new way and will to spend that. The not having enough money thing is directly on the president. That is, the president has the power to tax, and taxing is the way America makes its money. There can be simple changes done to the tax code that all of a sudden brings in tons of money. That can be done. And then the president gets to write up a plan, and Congress has to approve the plan. But that's where people come in, and you guys got to make your leaders change the way they think about spending money. You know what I mean? Anyway, I rambled on long and long and long enough. If you are still here, God bless you, man, dude. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you very much. This is on YouTube, so like, subscribe, that kind of stuff. I'll be doing more stuff, and I'm gonna do shorter videos and a more succinct, no, more concise. That's the word. A more concise manner where it's not an hour, right? But this was a lot of information, and I really had to get all of this out. Hopefully, you'll find something, or something will make sense, and la la la, and blah blah blah. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And yeah, I'm out.